Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel, Happy Cells and Souls. I'm Julie Powers and I am a licensed Zumba instructor and a business partner with the Juice Plus company. And as such, I think that it's better, life is better when you're dancing through it. And I also want to inspire healthy living around the world. But my greater mission is to create better health at the cellular level and more joy at the cellular level. And I believe that our time here on earth is meant to be happy and joyful. And so in order for people to live into that, I want them to know that they only get one body and that it should be taken care of and that we are supposed to live in joy and happiness. Now, this YouTube channel is part of a process in having lots of conversations with remarkable people. And I believe that everybody has something to share and we can learn from everyone. And tonight, I am having a conversation with 4 amazing women who I have been extremely privileged to get to know and to meet personally, finally, who are all co-authors of a book that will be called Dancing with Darkness, and then the subtitle is yet to be named. So we're going to just work with that right now. And this book is a collaboration between 9 different women, and the other 4 women couldn't be on tonight. But Jennifer Tosner is the publisher with Warrior Storytellers Publishing. And Jennifer, I would like for you to just kind of give us an overview, if you could, of, first of all, what is Warrior Storytellers Publishing? And how and why did you decide to do a collaborative effort between all these women telling their stories? So you have to unmute yourself.
Thank you so much, Julie. What a beautiful introduction. What a beautiful YouTube channel that you have created here. I'm so happy to be honored, and I'm honored to be with you today. So Warrior Storytellers Publishing really came about because part of my story was that several years ago, I was in a school shooting, and having gone through something so scary and traumatic in the moment and having all the healing that came afterwards, but then also in the media and in the news, there was so much doom and gloom about what was happening in the schools or how much gun violence was in the world. And I felt really called to share my story so that I could not only tell people that there's that proverbial light at the end of the tunnel, but really show my process of how I worked through it. And what I didn't know at the time was that by telling my story of how I really felt like a victim was the most empowering thing that I could have done to go from being a victim to a warrior. And that's kind of where that warrior came, with like feeling empowered, feeling like I had my voice back, feeling like I had the ability to determine my future and my life again. And so when I pulled together this group of women, it was really about how can we share the stories of, you know, that post-traumatic growth period. Like, we've all gone through something hard. That's just a universal human thing. And the women who are the most incredible are the ones who have walked through the darkness, who walked through the fear to become the greatest version of themselves on the other side. So that's really how this book collaborative was formed.
So whenever you put a group of women together, sometimes it doesn't work out so well, but in this case, it seems to work out really, really well in terms of people really being on the healing end of the journey and working with you as our guide to walk us through some steps in terms of putting our stories on paper in order to share with the world. Can you just talk about that for about a minute and explain kind of how that process works with you in particular?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's a great question. I feel like sisterhood is really foundational to this, because a lot of the times when people are writing or healing, it's a very isolating experience. And when I especially was going through PTSD and healing from that, I felt like I was the only one. I felt like I was the only one in my world who was going through therapy or going through that work. And when I envisioned this collaborative, I thought, like, sisterhood really can heal so much. And we do it through the power of witnessing each other. And the more that I'm witnessed, the more I heal. And the more you're witnessed, the more that you heal, because we get to really see ourselves in the other person. And so through calling everybody together for this, it was really obvious that the ones who were ready to share their stories, like I believe that so much of this is everything happens for a reason, and there are no accidents, that each and every one of us chose into this project. And even though it's been challenging and bumpy along the way, there's a reason why not everybody writes a book. There's a reason why not everybody pursues the dream, and it's because it's hard. And so to do that with a group of women who all have each other's back is such a beautiful gift. And I really feel that, like, we all cheer each other on when it gets hard. It's amazing.
It has been a really amazing journey for sure. And so the first person that I want to talk to here, just because you happen to be the first in my row across the top, Kris Hansen Sayles, if you could unmute yourself, could you just tell us what your story is? What is your chapter going to be about?
Thanks a lot, Julie, and I really do love your YouTube channel. And special thanks to Jennifer, who helped draw this out of me, so thank you. So my story is a story of healing, and it's a pathway through my special needs mama experience, kind of harnessing the mama bear and for advocacy, and basically creating a new future that just wasn't going to exist. So in there, I talk about one family, even though there's divorce involved, and the tribe that we created together, and a game called Everybody Wins, and really a whole new view on disability. So that's the general form it takes.
And I remember you telling me that you had been following Jennifer Tosner for a while, and you really wanted to be part of a project that she was putting together. And so when this came up, you were all over it, right?
Yeah, so Jennifer is a coach first and foremost, and then because she's been through the process so many times, she has created this structure and this publishing house, and it's just been a fantastic journey.
Right. Well, I think that a lot of people that will be able to really connect with your story, because there are so many families that have special needs children involved. And, I was there for a while, and now my daughter's not with us anymore, but I understand your story so well, because one thing that you've said was that you packed your bags for Italy when you were getting ready to have your child, but you ended up in the Netherlands, and you figured out how to live in the Netherlands. It's a perfect metaphor. And so I love that. And I think that a lot of people will be able to get a whole lot from your story, even if they don't have special needs kids under their roofs. They know families that do, and they'll be able to understand what that's really like a little bit better. So thank you for sharing that. All right, so Kathy Miller, you are next. So if you could unmute yourself. So Kathy, you really have an extremely powerful story, and I was wondering if you could tell us what your chapter is going to be about.
Sure. So I just kind of like wrote down some key words, because my story, there's a lot of details. So my story is one of trauma, addiction, drama, chaos. It was I was in a very numb and disconnected space, one that I like to call like a zombie-like existence for many years, for I could even say many decades. And I just the other day wrote a description of what like my chapter's about. It's like a Dateline episode mixed with intervention that shifts into the OA with some ancient aliens. So
yeah, your story really does kind of cover all of that. And I was very honored to be able to read your story. And when I did, I think I told you that I never in a million years would have been able to guess that that's what your story was about. Because like you say in your words, that there are so many stories kind of lurking behind the soccer mom, the girl next door, the whatever, that you never know what somebody's true story is, but you were able to really just throw it all out there on the paper. And come out in a much better place with all kinds of love and happiness surrounding you now. So I think that it gives people a lot of hope. A lot of hope.
Yeah, and I was very committed to telling the story in a very honest, deep way. Even though I knew that there might be some judgment and there was like a lot of shame on my end, but that's very much what this journey was healing a lot of that shame and judgment that I didn't even know was existing there anymore.
Right, right. Well, I know that there will be a lot of people able to connect with your story because they're going to figure out that they know more people that have gone through similar stories than they realized. And sometimes you kind of have to dig a little bit to find that story in somebody, and then you realize, wow, they've really gone through a lot. And, you know, we write a lot of stories for other people. We make up stories about people all the time that we meet, and so many of them are not based on any facts whatsoever. So I think that it's really interesting to be able to pull that story out of yourself that seems so far-fetched, but it is so factual. And so I think that it's amazing that you were able to share the story that you have.
Thanks, Julie. Thanks for doing this call.
All right, next, Erma Cooke, if you will unmute yourself. So we've already spoken once. Be sure to unmute. It looks like you're still muted. We've already spoken once on my YouTube channel because you are the baby whisperer. And so if somebody is watching this and they've not been able to check out that story, you go into greater detail about that. But would you please share what your story is going to be about in this book?
Sure. So my story is more on the paranormal side of things. It's really looking at how the trauma in my life pushed me to develop gifts that help me in my everyday work world and help me to hear the babies and to listen to them when they talk to me. So it's looking at as Jenny, I think I introduced Jenny to the term of post-traumatic growth. And it's how those traumatic events can really show us the gifts that we have. And then over the years, I've learned to develop those gifts in all the work that I do.
So we're having a little bit of technical issue with your particular video. It's kind of freezing up, so I hope that it comes out okay on this video. You are a neonatal nurse practitioner, and when you say that the babies are talking to you, you're talking about newborn babies that have gone directly from delivery into the NICU for intensive care, but you are able to have, you have these amazing special gifts to hear those babies calling for you to come and help them right now, and that you and the other people in the medical team have been able to give intervention much earlier because the baby has actually told you, get over here and do something now. And many lives have been saved because of that, and that you have these gifts. But you also have gifts not just with babies. You also have gifts with grief and being able to feel things in adults. Is that part of your story as well?
There's a bit of my story surrounding when my mom died and the actual gifts that I had with her, being with a psychic connection with her, knowing when she was not doing well in surgery, knowing when she needed me for something, hearing her call me. She was actually the first person that I remember hearing call me to her when I was outside and she was in the house. So there's some of that stories in there as well.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people will find it very fascinating, especially because people, I think, don't realize, well, a lot of people that I know have not yet been introduced to some of these really special gifts that are outside of the norm. You know, we tend to recognize special gifts, musicians, people who can play, you know, a musical instrument by ear. That's a gift. People who can speak publicly, that's a gift. People who can, the gift of hospitality. You know, there are those people who are able to throw an event, put on a party, welcome people into their home, and they just have this gift, right? And so when we can think of all kinds of gifts that we recognize easily, But when it's something that's a little bit out there, like somebody hearing babies talking that can't talk and they have tubes attached to them and, you know, they're not even a day old, sometimes that's hard to really come to terms with, but it's real. It's totally real. And there are other amazing gifts that some of our other authors are going to be talking about as well. Did you have anything else you want to mention before we move on to another question with Jenny?
No.
Nope. Okay.
Thanks for doing this.
All right. So go ahead and mute back out. And then whenever it's time to talk again, we'll grab you. So what we were just mentioning is some of the other stories talk about some of these other special gifts as well. Being able to feel vibration and feel energy in people. Jenny, do you want to mention what maybe some of the other topics of the stories are without necessarily like talking about the specific authors since they're not able to be on the call with us?
Yeah, absolutely. And what I love about all these stories is they're all about how we have really found ourselves. Even though my story is not your story is not Erma's story, we all have a different paintbrush through which we paint reality and which we make meaning for our lives. And so I think what all of these stories are really about is like, how do we find hope and healing in those challenging spaces? And even if we have different metaphors that we use, we're all really coming back to love. And I think that's really important because no matter who's reading, whether you're interested in like unsolved mysteries and ancient aliens, or you're interested in like the ER and the medical field, or whether you're interested in teaching or special needs kids or psychic gifts, we all at the heart of our stories are coming to a place of love and healing and growth through what we've been through. And all of our stories provide not only the steps that we walk through, but how others can also find hope and healing in similar circumstances. So they are really powerful. We do have a woman who's sharing about sexual abuse when she was very young. And that's something that affects a lot of women. And a lot of women never get a chance to come out of the closet with how they may have been violated or even what they did to heal from that process. Another woman is sharing the story about how she married somebody with very serious addiction issues and how she walked through loving somebody back to wholeness, but she had to find it within herself before he could find it within him. And I think a lot of people have addiction issues in our relationships. We have another woman who's really sharing about how, she had shut down a part of her heart through a very serious heart attack and a very, very scary near-death experience, and how she had to learn how to open her heart so that she could be healthy and whole again, and the path to that. And then another woman is also sharing about how she's really ending that generational trauma that comes with not only sexual abuse, but then supporting her daughter as she raises an empowered daughter to be ready for the world and not to be victimized. And so all of our stories carry so much healing, not only that we've been through, but that we want to help others do in the world as well.
Well, I think that there are so many really, really good stories here. And my story is about, it takes place in two parts. I talk about when my daughter Emma was alive and her special needs, and then how she passed, and then where I've come since then, and all the twists and turns and interesting experiences that I've been part of. Basically, with the beginning of it was trying to connect with her, because there were other people that have these special gifts that we've been talking about. And I just think that I have been able to grow because I've had such an open mind in the last couple of years, that my story is about not just healing and grieving and coming out into happiness and joy, even though I've lost a child. And I want to give hope and permission to all parents out there who have lost children, that it's okay to be happy, and that we're meant to be happy, and that our children would want us to be happy. But also that, we all have our own journeys of transformation and expansion. And this book was part of that. And, while Kris was like following all of your work, Jenny, as a coach, and wanting to jump on board with you, I met Kris, and during a conversation, it was no coincidence that I had literally just had a thought 2 weeks before that I was supposed to write a book. And I said, no way. And I started laughing out loud when that thought came through my head. And she said, oh my gosh, I think your story is supposed to be the story that we're missing in our book. And so I knew that it was not just a coincidence, it was meant to be. And I believe that all of us, as part of this collaborative, were meant to be in this sisterhood in some form and fashion, and that it had to be these 9 women. It had to be. And so I think that we've covered so many bases in all of our stories, and that I always tell people, even with this YouTube channel, there might only be one person that watches this video. There might be 10. There might be 100. I don't know. And it doesn't matter to me, because I know that the right person is going to hear these particular stories and conversations on this YouTube channel. Just as I know that when I decided that I didn't have a choice, I had to be part of this project to write my story, that it didn't matter who read it, that I know that I'm writing my story for the one person out there who's lost a child, who cannot get out of grief and sorrow. And maybe that parent will learn that it's okay to be happy. But I'm also writing for the person who has a very closed mind about some of these other things that can happen in life, and that it's okay to have an open mind and to learn about these amazing things that are available out there that people really have, and they all do come from light and love. And that's what we're all trying to do, is to drive out the darkness and bring more light into the world through our stories. So I want to thank you, ladies, for being part of this conversation. And I am really excited about our book coming out in April 2020, sometime in April 2020. And any last words? All good? Jennifer?
I just have so loved just watching every single one of these women go through the process of bringing their stories to you. It's really something special that we've created. And I think too that seeing a woman come out the other side of her darkness, there is no more powerful journey. And I believe that we heal when all of us are healed. And so by witnessing each other has really brought me the most healing in this process. And so I love the vision of getting it out to the people who are still stuck in the suffering part, because it's really about transcending that suffering so that we can be the light in the world. And you said it so beautifully, Julie, so thank you.
Well, thank you, Kris. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Erma. Thank you, Jennifer. And I'm going to stop the recording.